Under the dying sun of a long and lonesome day, the wind whispered across the empty plains of Arizona. The sky burned red and gold, the kind of fire that ends a hard man's day and makes him remember all he's lost. Hank Miller sat on the porch of his old wooden ranch house, hat tipped low, hands rough and still. His eyes, once sharp and proud, were now tired, worn down by years of silence. The wind carried dust and memories, and sometimes he couldn't tell which hurt more. He was a man carved by the land, shaped by loneliness. Every board on that porch, every nail in that fence had felt his touch. Yet there wasn't a single soul left to share it with. His wife, Mary, had been gone 6 winters now. His daughters, Emma and Rose, had left for the city, chasing lives far beyond these dry fences. For years, Hank had lived alone with his cattle, his silence, and the haunting song of the coyotes that filled the nights. But that evening, something different stirred in the air. Maybe it was the way the wind shifted, or the strange calm before the stars came out. Whatever it was, it felt like change. He stood up, looking far down the trail that cut through the valley. It had been years since he'd seen a wagon or a rider coming that way. He rubbed the back of his neck, half smiling at the thought that maybe it was just his imagination. But then he saw it, a cloud of dust rising slow and steady, the unmistakable rhythm of horses moving in pairs. His heart thudded once, hard enough to remind him he was still alive. He leaned against the post and squinted. 2 riders, and behind them, a smaller figure draped in desert colors, moving gracefully like the wind itself. His pulse quickened. He didn't dare hope, but as the riders came closer, the truth hit him like thunder. They were his daughters, his little girls, now grown women, coming home. The sight stole the air from his chest. By the time the horses reached the gate, Hank's eyes were glistening. Emma jumped off first, tall, confident, with the same spark her mother once had. Rose followed, smiling softly, her hands trembling with emotion. "Pa," Emma said, voice shaking but strong. That one word carried years of distance and 1,000 untold stories. Hank tried to speak, but his voice broke like dry wood. "My girls," he whispered. Then he saw her, the 3rd rider, a young woman with deep brown skin and raven black, hair that caught the light like silk. Her eyes were calm, yet wild, the kind that carried a history no book could tell. She dismounted quietly, her every move graceful and proud. The silence between them stretched, full of curiosity and unspoken questions. Rose stepped closer and said softly, "Pop, this is Naya. She's Apache. She helped us when—" Her voice trembled, "when we needed it most." Hank's gaze lingered on the girl. There was something in her eyes, strength, sorrow, and a quiet dignity that felt older than the mountains themselves. He tipped his hat slightly. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and respectful. She nodded, her lips curling into a gentle smile. That smile, simple, humble, seemed to pull the loneliness right out of the air. For the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel empty. Inside, the old house smelled of dust, coffee, and memory. Hank lit a lamp, the warm glow spreading across the wooden walls lined with faded photographs. The 3 women sat at the table while Hank brewed coffee like he always did. Slow, careful, a ritual that meant peace. They talked for hours about cities, roads, and the hard winters that changed them all. Naya said little, but every time she spoke, her words carried weight. She spoke of loss, of finding family where there was none, of how kindness survives even in the harshest lands. Hank listened quietly, his heart softening in ways he didn't think were possible anymore. As the night grew older, the crickets began their songs, and the moonlight spilled over the wooden floor. Hank leaned back, looking at his daughters, feeling pride and sorrow twist together inside him. He looked at Naya again, this young woman who had somehow become part of his daughter's story, and something stirred deep inside him. Not love, not yet, but something gentler, something that whispered of healing. It had been years since he'd felt hope. Outside, the stars burned bright, like a promise that the past didn't have to haunt forever. Hank stood by the window, his reflection merging with the night sky. Behind him, laughter began to rise, real laughter, light and alive. He smiled, his heart swelling with a feeling he hadn't known in a long time. He turned back and said softly, "You know, this old place has been waiting a long time to sound like home." Again, Emma reached over and squeezed his hand. "It's home now, Pa. We're not leaving again." Hank nodded, eyes wet. For the first time in years, he felt the warmth of family, the kind that never truly leaves, even when time and distance try to break it apart. And as the night wore on, a quiet peace filled the room, the kind that makes even the loneliest cowboy believe in second chances. If you've ever felt the weight of loneliness, the ache of lost time, or the miracle of finding your way back home, you'll understand Hank's story. And if you'd like to walk beside these hearts on their journey, don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes the stories worth hearing aren't about cowboys or deserts. They're about the strength it takes to love again,